Hello everybody, Jochen Hayden here. I'm back with part 2 of my tutorial for the War in the Pacific Tracker version 1.11. Hopefully you guys watched part 1 of my tutorial and you got War in the Pacific Tracker operating. You got past the Java issues, you got it all set up. Now I'm going to teach you how to dial it in to actually read data from your game so you can start analyzing stuff. So I'll be referencing the website, the tracker's website. They have a setup section over here, which is going to basically explain the stuff I'm going to show you today with all of the instructions. So this is your reference if you need to go back. But let's just go ahead and dive right into this. So in your main folder, you're going to see a properties file. You're going to open that up. And the nice thing in here is that it's got a lot of tooltips. So anything with a dollar sign, sorry, the number sign is like a tooltip, and everything else is going to be telling you what this thing does. So whatever's in the parentheses are what you're going to actually modify. So one thing you have to keep in mind is this game builds a database off the save game file that you provide. So if you want to run Tracker for different types of games, I would recommend that you have multiple instances of this tracker on your desktop and just label it differently each one and have each instance of this game dialed in to a particular game. For example, if you're playing a play by email with one guy or a girl, you'll have a tracker folder set up for that. If you're playing an AI campaign at the same time and you want to have separate data for that, point it towards that, so on and so forth, because the database could get corrupted if you have multiple different save files it's trying to read. So for now, let's assume you're just playing one game, one campaign, and that's the only thing you're worried about. So if you follow through here, you're gonna just read each thing. So the directory should be the main directory that the game is installed in. This is the default, and this is also how I have it installed on my computer. Yours might be different, so you may need to adjust this accordingly. All right, type of game. In this particular setup, I'm going to play an AI game so I can show you how this works. But if you're playing a play by email, you'll change the number. So I'm going to leave it at 0. The side you're playing, 0 for Japan, 1 for allies. In the game that I'm going to show you today, I'm playing Japan. So there's 0. Password, only needed for a play by email. If you can leave this blank at default, or you change it to the actual password for your play by email. And then here's a very important thing: name of the base save file. Okay, so in this campaign that I'm playing over here, I have saved the file name as in slot 60, War in the Pacific Tracker test. Okay, it's very important that you pick a file name and or position for your save game files and you use it consistently. And I'll talk more about when you should be saving and how to run the turn. But pick a slot, and that's your slot for Tracker to get. And if you're curious what that file name should be, you can go to the War in the Pacific main directory. I have a shortcut because I use a lot of save game files here. And then you'll see here I have a number 60. That's going to be the campaign that I want Tracker to be grabbing data from. So that's going to be the format. So I'm just going to go over here and change this to 60, okay? Now, mode the program will look for save game file. Since I'm pointing it in a direct direction for this file, I'm going to use save mode number 1. Just in the game folder. I want to look at just in the save folder, nowhere else. Okay, text to put in the header of the main window. This is good so you don't confuse yourself. So you can just put, for me, I'm going to put Japan AI campaign. Right. That way I know when I open up the save game file in Tracker, that's what I'm looking at. If I'm playing with my play by email campaign with Lodric, I'll change the header to read that. And then turn cycle, days per turn. I have it set up, the one I'm showing you now is turn cycle 1. But if you're doing a 2-day cycle, 3-day cycle, you need to put that in there because it will change how it grabs data. Or in the case of what me and Lodric are going to be doing, we may be changing back and forth between 1 or 2-day turns based on that method that I showed you a while back. So you need to make sure this is adjusted for whatever you're currently doing. In our case, it's turn cycle 1. So this looks good. I'm going to save this. Now, if everything works correctly, the tracker should now load. Let's see what happens. Oh, this is a good sign. See no more errors, no more Java issues. It's saying it's initializing a database. It's going to tell you it takes X amount of seconds. And here we go. We have successfully launched the tracker. Another thing that you'll see happen when you successfully launch the tracker, it's going to build 4 or 5 files, which it's basically using as a database backup for what it's doing. All right. So we see here 4 new files that were just created today that it created when I loaded this up. Now, if you look down here at the bottom, it says last turn loaded 2. The reason that it says 2 and not 1 is that I set up my campaign to do a historical start. So turn 1 was done for me. I didn't get to intervene or save it before it started. So the first time I was able to save the turn was turn 2. All right. At the top, you'll see the header that we put in the properties file is located here. So I know, okay, this is my AI campaign, not my play by email with Lodrick. But you'll notice here, there's no data, right? Oh, it's already loaded turn 2. So how this program works, to the best of my knowledge, is it does not read stuff until it has 2 consecutive turns, however they are, to compare data from and to. So right now it's reading turn 2. It's established a database, but it needs to see a comparison between turn 3 or turn 2 or whatever turn you're actually loading up to build a database and show the changes. So this is not uncommon to see turn 2 loaded when you start your campaign and there's no data. That's okay. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to go ahead and stop here. I'm going to go run a turn on my campaign. Then we're going to come back to the tracker and I'm going to show you what to do next. So just give me a few minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back and I just finished running my turn. So it's cleaning up the last little bits of the turn here. All right, so the turn has ended. So now we are on the 9th of December. So at this point, I have to emphasize something to you. From now on, if you want to use a tracker and you want it to work right, you have to condition yourself to always save your turn as soon as you get the turn back and it's your turn to make orders and movements, okay? So if you're playing Allied or Japanese, the second the turn is released to you so you can make stuff happen, stop and save your game. Save it in that same file spot, the slot that you were using the tracker with. So I'm going to save this here before I do anything else, okay? Make this a religious thing you do when you're playing this game. As soon as the turn is done and it's ready for you to make moves, save it right then because we need to load this into the tracker. If you don't, it's going to cause problems. All kinds of problems. Or you're going to forget and you're going to blow through 3 or 4 turns and then you're going to go to your tracker and load it up and you're going to notice that it skipped from turn 2 to turn 6. It's not the end of the world when that happens, but it causes gaps in your data. And you're not going to see a consistent change, and all the graphs and charts and cool things that it does are going to have these weird gaps in them because you weren't chaining together every single turn for it to analyze the whole progression of everything going on. So step 1, when you're playing a campaign, a scenario, and you want to use tracker, save the file as soon as it's your turn to make orders. All right, so we've done that. So I'm going to drop back over to the desktop display so we can see what to do next. All right, so now everything's already set up in the tracker here. So we'll pretend like we're starting it from scratch, right? We'll open it up. It's going to go through its thing again, and it's going to tell you it's going to take however many seconds to build the database, right? Okay, now, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go over here to turn, and you're going to click read turn. Now, see what happens? It's got some stuff going on down here in the bottom, and now it just said it loaded turn 3. And now check it out. We have all this data that just populated. Okay? In part 3 of this video, we're going to go through what all this is, how to read it, and all these other cool drop downs. But right now, I'm just trying to teach you how to get it to load data. Now, this tracker has two different ways of reading turns. It can read a single turn or multi-read turn. I use the read turn option only, and I religiously load each turn every day that I get a turn back, and it's my turn to make orders. Okay, and this will build a database that shows every day's progression or every 2 days progression, depending on how many turn cycles you're using. So you can see a better picture of what's going on in your campaign. You can actually forget to load some turns and it will skip. Like if I forget to load this thing up for 3 days in a row, I may go, oh man, it's the 12th of December, I forgot to check the tracker. It will load a turn, but it will say last turn loaded is 6 instead of 3. And when you go to look at your charts and things that we'll look at in the data sets later on, you're going to have gaps in it. Again, it's not going to break this thing, but it's just not going to give you a proper full picture. We'll talk about that in part 3. So this multi-turn thing, multi-read turn. If you go down here to the tracker website and click on loading turns, it talks more about the multi-read turn. I personally have not messed with it. I tried before and I got myself all confused, and it messed stuff up for me. So I just got used to doing a single read turn like I just showed you. If you want to play around with multi-turn reads, go to the website here, take a look at all this stuff, and you can figure it out yourself. I'm not gonna teach you guys that because I think it's just more confusing than it needs to be. And we're gonna do the single turn reads just the way I showed you. So that's it. That's all I got for this video. I just want to show you how to make this thing work. So now you see we've got some data. So in part 3, we're going to go through what all this data means and how to use this thing to analyze more stuff. If you feel like I missed something, or if you're confused about some of my directions, please post a comment, ask a question, let me clarify it, or get you an answer. Okay? Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you for part 3 soon.